This is BBC World News. I'm Philippa Thomas. Our top stories. The opposition in Bangladesh claims widespread vote rigging after a landslide election victory returns Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to power.
People are being killed, people are being arrested, candidates are being arrested.
All the allegations they are making, but they couldn't prove it.
At least 4 people are killed and dozens more are missing after a suspected gas explosion in a Russian apartment building. The British grandparents fighting to bring their murdered son's children from China to the UK have been given custody of their granddaughter, but told to leave her brother behind. And New Zealand welcomes the start of 2019 with a New Year firework display in Auckland. Hello and welcome to BBC World News. And let's start with our live pictures from Auckland in New Zealand. Of course, one of the first places to celebrate the new year. It is already an hour into 2019 in Samoa, though. And just as we're doing right now, we'll bring you more spectacular fireworks displays around the globe, hour by hour. Let's just watch a little more of these fireworks. And Happy New Year to our viewers in New Zealand, among the first to welcome in 2019. Allegations of vote rigging have This is BBC World News. I'm Philippa Thomas. Our top stories. The Bangladeshi Election Commission says Sheikh Hasina's victory will stand, despite opposition claims of widespread vote rigging.
People are being killed, people are being arrested, candidates are being arrested.
All the allegations they are making, but they couldn't prove it.
A suspected gas explosion in a Russian apartment building leaves 4 dead, dozens still missing. An intern is killed by a lion at an animal park in the United States after they ended up in the same enclosure.
We are devastated today that we had an incident on our site that included the loss of life of one of the people who is working with our trained professional staff keepers.
And Australia welcomes the start of 2019 with a New Year firework display in Sydney. Hello and welcome to BBC World News, and let's take you straight to Sydney in Australia, where huge crowds along the harbour are celebrating the new year. There you see the spectacular display. Now this is taking place despite storms and really heavy rainfall earlier in the day, which has brought lightning strikes, but Sydney and residents of Sydney determined that this massive public event should go ahead. scene in Sydney where we're told there are around $4 million worth of fireworks that go up. There's more than 100,000 individual pyrotechnic effects. We're seeing just a few of them.
This is BBC World News. I'm Babita Sharma. Our top stories. The Bangladeshi Election Commission says Sheikh Hasina's victory will stand despite opposition claims of widespread vote rigging.
People are being killed, people are being arrested, candidates are being arrested.
All the allegations they are making, but they couldn't prove it.
President Putin visits a Russian apartment building where a suspected gas explosion leaves 4 dead and dozens missing. An intern is killed by a lion at an animal park in the US after they ended up in the same enclosure.
We are devastated today that we had an incident on our site that included the loss of life of one of the people who is working with our trained professional staff keepers.
And this is the scene live in Japan, welcoming in the new year with a huge celebration in Tokyo. Similar celebrations in Pyongyang, where North Korea is also staging their very own New Year celebrations. We'll have more. Welcome and Happy New Year too. You're watching BBC World News. I'm Babita Sharma because much of the world has already welcomed in 2019. This is the scene live in Pyongyang, North Korea, where they have been welcoming in midnight just past. Let's see if we can have a little listen in to the huge celebrations there. The stage set there, and it's safe to say we've got tens of thousands of people watching the celebrations in Pyongyang, with celebrities there on the stage greeting in 2019. A big year, 2018, of course, for North Korea and the regime. That meeting, historic one between the US and North Korea in Singapore in June. And just yesterday we heard the news that the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has reached out yet again in the hope of holding more talks with South Korea's leader Moon Jae-in. And I hope then that they will be able to continue the discussions regarding denuclearization talks. But that's the scene there in Pyongyang. Let's take you over to Tokyo in Japan, which is the scene there live, where they have just ushered in midnight and the 1st of January 2019. Let's have a listen.
崩れた畑や山はこの地域だけで2000カ所以上に上ります。しかし愛媛の農家はへこたれません。皆さんが手にしているのは豪雨を乗り越えて収穫したみかんです。傷がついたものもありますが、この冬も美味しいみかんができました。
All oranges, the perfect way to bring in the 1st of January in Japan. They're the scene across Asia as they welcome in a new year, and a very happy new year. We will, of course, keep you across the latest celebrations around the world as we continue our coverage of New Year celebrations here on BBC World News. Now let's begin with our